2022 and 2023, we saw Red Bull had the biggest tire advantage and it was not even close. No team was even close to competitive enough to catch the Red Bull in race pace. 2024, we already have Red Bull talking about Ferrari and how they're so strong on their tire wear, especially in these high tire wear tracks. A quick and easy way to explain tire wear is in 4 different steps, talking about track surface, track temperature, mechanical load, and aerodynamic load. There's a lot of different reasons why tire wear could be happening to your car. But let's go over these 4 to get a better idea of why the Ferrari car is so strong on its tires. Track temperature being the first one. From the 3 tracks we've had so far, each of these tracks have had pretty hot races. Now, the biggest tire wear associated through temperature is in Bahrain. Bahrain specifically has pretty high temperatures, and that is one of the main reasons why Bahrain causes a lot of tire wear on that track. As for track surface, Jeddah is your perfect example as to why it doesn't cause a lot of tire wear there, even with the hot temperatures. The track surface over there is very smooth, it's been repaved and done a couple of times, while Bahrain has not been repaved. Australia actually is a pretty hot track, with actually pretty good and smooth surfacing onto it, but because of the change in tire compound we got in Australia, there was a good amount of tire wear, and we had a 2-stop race, which hasn't happened in a long time over there in Australia. Mechanical load can be best explained for tire wear through the slow speed corners. Depending on how you have the grip in the car, slow speed corners usually tends to go with mechanical grip in a Formula 1 car. Teams that struggle through slow speeds, slide a lot going into slow speed corners, and don't have as great of brakes tend to have more tire wear in those zones. Bahrain really exaggerates this in their famous turn 10 corner where you're going on a downward slope and have to brake really hard. A lot of tire wear is associated with this, plus putting into the track temperature and the track asphalt that's associated with the Bahrain Grand Prix. In Jeddah, you don't lose grip much at all in these low speed corners. There's only like 3 low speed corners, and all of them you don't have to brake too hard into, and you don't lose as much grip really there. Jeddah is not a track where tire wear is a huge problem. Now in Australia, it became a much bigger problem on the aerodynamic side. Typically when associating aerodynamics with tire wear, it's for high speed corners. There's a lot more variables that go into this, but let's associate it with high speed in aerodynamics, because this specifically goes with the Ferrari team. Most teams were losing a lot of tire grip through that super fast section in that right-left corner that gives a beautiful view of our Formula 1 cars. Certain teams were very competitive here because their aerodynamic load is extremely good, McLaren being your perfect example, but McLaren also has a very weak mechanical load, and that's why on slow speed corners they tend to drop off. But Ferrari has made a much better car aerodynamically and mechanically. The most interesting part to Ferrari's rise in this amazing tire wear is that their suspension layout is the complete opposite to that of Red Bull. In the front for Red Bull, they have a pull rod suspension, while for the Ferrari, it's a push rod suspension. Now for the rear, it's a push rod for Red Bull, and for Ferrari, it's a pull rod. So with completely opposite suspension layouts, both these teams have extremely good tire wear and can have very consistent pace throughout the race and use these tires in the optimal window. How is it possible that both these teams with completely different suspension layouts can get to this level? As I was talking about, mechanical and aerodynamic load can be explained best through high speed and low speed, but how you set up the car and the actual baseline for the car is the most important when it comes to sliding and braking, and where Ferrari and Red Bull can exploit those strengths they have in their mechanical and aerodynamic grip. The Ferrari has a new concept completely from its last year model. In 2022, the best example you can use of Ferrari and Red Bull's huge difference in tire wear is Japan in the wet. It was about a 27 to 28 lap race. Both cars used the intermediate tire, and if you look at the difference between the tires for Ferrari and Red Bull, it's night and day. The Red Bull looked pretty much brand new out the box, while the Ferrari looked like it was about to fall off. Hence why I gave it the name the Butter Shredder. This was associated with the Haas car as well. In 23, they had that same issue. In Bahrain, they actually were the faster car over both Mercedes and Aston Martin, but by the end of the race, they had no tires. Fernando Martin ended up actually catching Carlos Sainz by the end of the race, and that is how he got on the podium position. Was the car faster? No, but they were great on their tire wear, and this really helped them throughout the season up until really the teams kind of collided and Ferrari got on top of it. But when did Ferrari get on top of this tire wear issue? Well, it did take them a long time, but in Japan of last year, they used a different floor from an upgrade that they brought that was supposed to be more associated with a driving style that Charles Leclerc actually preferred. And from then on, they had a much better car on tires. Were they competitive with the Red Bull? Well, not as much as they are this year, but it definitely helped give them a direction for 2024, and it actually solved the issues that they were having in the high-speed corners. The car was super loose, and the balance in high speed was the biggest issue for Ferrari. And they even said on the tire wear, the aerodynamic load was what was missing with that SF23 at the time period. That's why in high-speed corners, that's where most of the tire wear was graining, and they could not actually catch the Red Bull on high-speed tracks. Tracks like Singapore, where the tire wear is very high, still, the Ferrari car was able to use it to its advantage that it's mostly low speed and mechanical grip. And any track like that, like Baku, and short cornering speeds like Monaco as well, is where the Ferrari excelled, and its tire wear was actually competitive to try and go for a podium or a race win. So is the Ferrari car better than the Red Bull car in tire wear? Well, I'll tell you this, it's very, very close, and there isn't an extreme difference like there was last year. We've already had a track with some high speed, Jeddah being that, and Australia also showing off some high-speed corners. And in both of these tracks, if you look at the lap time difference between Perez and Leclerc, because both of them were in dirty air, the times are super competitive on the same tire. With the same fuel loads, both these cars were very competitive, and the tire wear was not dropping off for the Ferrari, which typically before, this used to happen a lot. Now, in clean air, Carlos Sainz was able to lap a whole nother 6 to 7 laps before pitting at the very beginning of the race, showing that this car has really improved that aerodynamic load on its tires, and the mechanical grip that they had last year has still stuck with the car. They're still really strong in Sector 3, which requires a lot of mechanical grip, and that's usually where the McLaren fell off, and that is how the Ferrari kept its advantage. The car is getting an upgrade system in Japan, continuing to upgrade upon this beautifulness of the SF24, and it really does seem like they have a hold on to Red Bull's tire system. Helmut Marko and Christian Horner have all pointed out that this car is a lot better aerodynamically and on tire wear, and that is why they are much more competitive with the Red Bull. Perez even goes on to say that in Australia, even if Max was racing, the Ferrari car would have won. Now, is that true? Max, to my opinion, is the king of tire wear currently at the moment. If you look at anything like 2023 Mexico or 2022 Mexico, you'll see that this guy is super consistent, and his driving style really suits these new ground effect cars when it comes to tire wear. Perez used to be the tire whisperer, but when you look at Max Verstappen over the last couple of years, he's made him look pretty funny, at least in that attribute. So with Max racing in Australia, it would have been a much more competitive race, and let's see in Japan if this same type of tire wear consists to be competitive with that of the Red Bull, with much more high-speed corners and a lot of braking, and then also another two-stop race. I do expect a competitive Ferrari, but it'll be really interesting if they can keep that same type of tire wear like they had in Bahrain, Jeddah, and Australia after a couple more upgrades are added to the car. I firmly believe we're in for a competitive season, and Ferrari has showed off that their tire wear is extremely good, and if they can do that and bring aerodynamic upgrades to the car to make it faster, we got ourselves a treat. Hope you guys enjoyed this more informative type of video. Please leave a like, subscribe, it'd mean the world, and peace.